All right, everybody. So the theme of this is 7. Okay, 7 messages in 7 minutes. All right. Just to start off, whom do we mean by? What's an independent retailer? Essentially, 5 characteristics. These are retailers who've begun to modernize. When we say begin to modernize, that means in terms of aisle layout, in terms of technology, in terms of customer experience, most importantly. They view online as a way to expand in the, if you like, cloud space. In the brick and mortar space, it's franchising that drives scale for them. Most importantly, they create brands. Small, medium, large, but they've understood very clearly that branding is what creates value. And last but not the least, they're extremely focused in terms of how they create value propositions in the mind of the customer. So short, snappy, sharp are the words of play there. To give you a sense of the scale and scope of this survey, so we spoke to about 126 retailers. That's 4,500 crores of turnover, or 450 million pounds worth of turnover. It's 8,500 people that they employ and about 1,750 stores. So it's not a small sample, and therefore some of the insights from this, if you like, are what could be called quantitatively credible. The way we did this is, as Charles said, from June last year to now, we spent time with the owners, the promoters, the CEOs of these companies, and got them to talk to us about the business, where they see the sector going, what keeps them awake at night, what gives them sleepless nights, what makes them fall in love with their business. About half of our sample are actually quite small, so turnover under 10 crores. But that also tells you, in a sense, the might and power of emerging retail, because there are a couple of companies in this sample who actually have a turnover of more than 1,000 crores. So this is a graphic that's aimed at giving you an overall state of play, the mood of the market, if you like. Growth is back. Growth is positive. Emerging retailers are happy and quite confident about growth as a whole in the economy right now. Competitive intensity is high. Space and people worry them. They are fast in terms of technology adoption. And last but not the least, there are a number of regulatory or policy irritants, which is part of what gives them sleepless nights. I'll quickly walk you through each of these. Like I said, 7 key messages. So starting with growth, same-store sales growth between 10 and 25% for a large part of the sample that we surveyed. One interesting trend is regionality. So the South, actually, there were about 87% of retailers which grew relatively fast, even in 2014. If you remember 2014, there was a change of sentiment mid-year, but the year as a whole was reasonably good for the independent retailer as a whole. So when it comes to competition, there are 4 things that we're looking at. One is about branding. Second is in terms of what are they doing with reference to private labels. The third thing is about technology, the whole e-com play, discounting. Does it really make a difference to them? Are they threatened by it? And the fourth is in terms of how they view loyalty. So the first of those, in terms of branding, there's a very, very clear trend that independent retailers see brands as a way to handle competition. They see brands as a creation of entry barriers. And this is across the board. Okay? It's across categories. It is obviously true in the more obvious categories like occasion wear, jewelry. But it is as true in the not so obvious categories of pharmacy, home decor, sports retailing. Just to give you a quote, one of the retailers told us, he said, my customers, and he actually said this in Hindi, so it reads better in Hindi. He says, my customers मुझे किराना नहीं सोचते, neighborhood gourmet store सोचते, which is, I'm not a kirana to them, I'm the neighborhood gourmet store. I don't sell grain, I sell food solutions. And for somebody with 250 square feet of supermarket space who'd recently modernized, air-conditioned his premises, created open aisles, it's a huge statement and an extremely relevant signal in the way this segment of the market is moving. There's one other number that's worth talking about. We believe independent retailers are about 40% of the market. So that's the non-kirana, non-e-tail, non-modern sector. Okay? They don't get tracked that way, but if you look at them, these are, as I said, those stores, those companies which focus on modernizing the customer experience. They do that through technology, they do that through look and feel, they do that through e-commerce adoption, etc. The heart of it is about changing the way the customer experiences shopping in their store and creating some kind of a brand value in the mind of the customer. One of the most interesting findings from this survey was how they look at private label. There's a very clear and nice correlation between turnover and the amount of money retailers are investing in creating private label. So for the smaller retailers, even under 10 crores, and this is across categories, you had about a fourth of retailers who were creating private labels. As turnover grows, so from 10 to 50 crores, that's about a third of retailers who are creating private labels. 50 to 100 crores, it's almost half. And by the time turnover crosses 100 crores, there are 2/3 of retailers who are investing in actively managing, creating private labels. Again, couple of interesting quotes, if you like. One is in terms of franchising. Clearly, they see franchising as a way to create scale, even as they cope or they understand that it brings its own challenges with regard to process standardization. The second, I think, is in terms of how they view the online space. They clearly understand the power of it. There's a quote there from one of the apparel retailers in the south in Madurai, who said that he understood the power of online when he saw his front-end staff on a daily basis giving directions to the Flipkart boy of how to deliver the package. I think the second and interesting trend as far as online is concerned is how these retailers are looking to use brands as a way to differentiate between channels. So for example, apparel retailers especially are saying that they'll set up separate brands for online to deal with the phenomenon of brands getting discounted. Competition, e-commerce is obviously a big part in terms of how this segment views e-commerce. While there's no question that they see the power and its ability to create scale, they've also learned, if you like, walked the path and learned a lesson in terms of what e-commerce can do in terms of its dilutive ability on the brand. So two key findings here. One is regional, which is there's a lower, the South seems to adopt e-commerce slower and less than the rest of the country. But the second finding is also quite important. Across the board, when we asked them how much time it took them to enable the business, they said between setting up a website, creating look and feel, payment gateway integration, it took 9 months. And one of the consistent feedbacks was, we don't have technology providers who can help us make this journey fast. So they're all learning as they go. It's taking them time to enable their own businesses. They're not always looking at marketplace listings. Many of them are choosing to create payment gateways and e-commerce enable their own businesses. The last dimension in competition, which is about how they see customer loyalty in the context of formal loyalty programs. If you look at the right side of the graph, so clearly they understand the business of loyalty, if you like. How they deal with it is about 1/3 of them look at price-based loyalty offers. These are not formal programs. Customers are not earning points. There are about 15% of the retailers, so that's roughly what, about 18 or 19 companies, who actually offer formal point-based loyalty programs with cards, with redemption mechanisms, etc. As far as price-based offers are concerned, I think one interesting trend, and I'm sure a lot of people would have experienced this, is using WhatsApp. So they use WhatsApp extensively to market offers, to talk about new stock, to talk about end-of-season sales, and that's especially true in the visual category. So visual categories like apparel, jewelry, QSR. One, again, ancillary finding, These retailers are investing in digital marketing. They're investing in design. And they understand the impact of the look and feel of a simple image sent on WhatsApp in terms of its impact on daily sales. So, as I said in the beginning, there are two things that worry them, space and people. As far as space is concerned, about half of independent retail actually owns its space, so not that much of a concern for them. When they get into scale, when they start looking at franchising space, rentals become a concern. But I think there is another, and there was another interesting finding which came when we started talking to them a little deeper on this dimension, which is this. One of the questions that this survey threw up is, are malls crowding out independent retailers? We got consistent feedback from all the regions that it's not that they don't find rentals in malls affordable. It's not an affordability issue, it's a visibility issue. Their basic problem or their basic feedback was that they were not treated as a prime brand, even though in that local city or local market, they're likely to have been running a 100 crore business. So therefore, the cost benefit for them in that sense didn't stack up positive when it came to putting up stores inside malls. So yes, people and retail. Attrition, always a concern. And no different here also. Maybe the South saw a bit more attrition. So again, if you picture this across the survey, high growth or higher growth, also higher attrition for the South. But the real issue wasn't attrition. It was skilling. Skilling is a national concern. It's no surprise that earlier in the morning we had that session on skilling where the minister came in and spoke about the need for retail to pull up its socks. The retailers are already saying that their issue isn't attrition so much as skilling, and that is across all the 4 regions that we surveyed. Okay, so when it comes to technology adoption, there's a little bit of a story which plays out through the numbers. When independent retailers grow and scale, the core processes are pretty much the first to be automated. Okay, so that's billing, accounting, inventory. Next is the big 3, social media, e-commerce, loyalty. Okay, as the business grows, these are typically where the technology dollar or the technology budget goes. Typically beyond about 100 crores of turnover is when supply chain and CRM starts to become relevant. In terms of adoption, again, by region, the North, within the category of supply chain CRM, there was high adoption. South was about social media and loyalty, and the West was about e-commerce and inventory automation. Again, some of the insights, I think the biggest insight is probably there in the title of this slide, which is how they adopt technology. So independent retailers, technology adoption is driven by business needs. Technology is not a consensus decision in these companies. Okay, the entrepreneur usually takes the call. He may or may not, and is usually not a technocrat. He takes a call based on what he perceives to be the advantages of adopting that particular piece of technology. Again, couple of things. One, these smaller retailers are struggling to find delivery, shipment and delivery logistics partners. There's a gap there. On the other hand, they've adopted social media enthusiastically. 60% of them have built communities on 1 or more channels which have more than 1,000 active followers. That's saying quite a bit. And in the omni-channel panel, we talk about things like endless aisle. Those are concepts which are already happening to an extent in independent retail. For example, you have an apparel company in Gujarat which has used iPads and used technology to create endless aisles, showcase its entire inventory to all its franchisees. Okay, that's a company called Hara. They've also adopted mobility and payment solutions. So especially the specialty dining cafes, there's a company called Beer Cafe 1730. They've already got mobile payment solutions so customers don't have to stand in line. Last part of this, policy, regulatory environment. So when it's retail and it's policy, there are usually 2 things, right? GST and FDI. So the reaction to GST can pretty much be summarized as, can we have it yesterday? All multi-state retailers wanted GST. Okay. When it comes to FDI, there's a little bit of a segmentation happening here. There is a section of the community, okay, and that's almost half, who doesn't believe that FDI will even apply to their business. That could be because they're small. That's also because a number of them don't see the threat because they believe that their brand and their value is deeply entrenched in their customer base. For the rest of them, the rest of the 50%, it's split down the middle. So there are about 25% overall who are violently unfavorable, 25% who are favorable towards FDI and retail. One of the other things, and this actually wasn't something that we questioned them on, but came out as a